question, but more an input to the discussion that we are having right now. Since last 2 days, there has been a lot of talk in terms of, in corporate lingo, that there has been a huge amount of execution gap in this sector. Meaning, what has been promised or what has been committed and what has actually been delivered, there's a huge gap. Now, if you look at principles of execution, what you want to do, the number one principle is in terms of clarity of each and every stakeholder. So a stakeholder like a student, what's his clarity of getting into any kind of skill building course? Is he doing it because he's been asked to do so? Is he doing it because he just thinks this is the fad or the skill of the moment? Why exactly? What's in it for him deeper down than very materialistic reasons? What's in it for him, basically? He needs to clarify that. So similarly, as the stakeholder, in terms of people who are providing that kind of input, need to also clarify or help this person counsel in terms of his career exploration to make him choose in the line of career in a very systematic manner, and not to go with or advise him whatever the vendor has to offer. So if the vendor has to offer, let us say, Oracle or whatever IT skill set, it's not necessary to sell it to the student just because he has it. A more important perspective would be to get that clarity, which is the number one principle of any kind of execution for any stakeholder. Because clarity of all the stakeholders will get into commitment. Without clarity, and that is why I think a lot of talk is around students who are joining, and we've seen it in today's paper also. Huge population of the first year engineering students of AP have flunked. Why exactly? No clarity, no commitment. So it's very in tandem. So my request that stakeholders of every, let it be an investor, let it be the customer or whoever, get in line with the principles of execution. Number one, clarity. Number two, commitment. Then translation into action. Like that. Thanks.
I'm Krishan Khanna. Unfortunately, I was a speaker in the other session, so I could not attend this. Actually, I was on the Prime Minister's Task Force for Skills Building in the Planning Commission, first task force in India. And the whole roadmap has been made, planning has been done. And all that you mentioned is very pertinent, but information is available today. I'll just give you a very short snap of what needs to be done. China has 5 lakh vocational training centers. They train 90 million people per year. 70% of their centers are in rural China. We don't have any center in rural India, although 60% of our workforce of 51 crores is in rural India. In fact, we don't even have courses for rural India. We have courses for the service sector and for the manufacturing sector, which is very unfortunate, So the question is this: there are 23 sectors have been identified, and there will be, because I am connected with NSDC. NSDC was set up after the task force. In fact, Mr. Dilip Chunai was to come, but I saw his name. But is anybody from NSDC out? Oh, you're there. So he must have given you the full background in his presentation. The thing is this, that now we have to get into an implementation mode. Now we have been involved with some other corporations. About 4,000 centers are coming up in the next 5 years, where about 20 million people will be trained. The plan is to train 500 million people in different sectors of the Indian economy. Our higher education today, unfortunately, has no relevance to the, as you have mentioned, because most of our students are doing BA. 70% of our graduates are BA, and half of them are doing correspondence course, which means that they really don't do anything at all. They get a certificate at the end of 3 years. The reason is this, that the whole mindset in our education system, and when I say system, I'm talking about school education. Vocational education has not been put into that system. Entrepreneurship has not been put into that system. Now, in the 11th plan committees of the MHRD and IGNOU, NIOS, AICT, I was in all those committees. So, all that has been put into place. But it will take about 5 years before you start seeing a little change in it. Vocational training is now, they are planning to introduce, I think Mr. Kapil Sibal mentioned as recently as last week, that class 8 onwards, they are going to start introducing some vocational courses. And in fact, 80% of the youth of India should be doing vocational training. In countries like Germany and Japan, where I have lived for nearly 6 years, 20 years ago, 80% used to do it. Today, it's about 60%. But they still get into higher education after doing vocational training. It doesn't mean that if you do vocational training, you are an outcast or something. You can always do higher education later on in life. Today, we have a very peculiar situation where you can get an engineer, but you can't get an electrician. Or you can get a civil engineer, but you can't get a plumber. So the whole role is reversed. Actually, for every one engineering college, there should be 50 vocational training centers. So I will send to the panelists details. Yuvraj, of course, has all my details. But I'll be happy to interact with the panel members and send you more details. Thank you.
Yeah. Bala from NIT. I think this implementation issue, we have this Ministry of HRD, which is running the colleges and schools, especially polytechnics, if you remove the, and the whole vocational education is driven traditionally by DGET. You see the certificate course taking there. Now you have NSDC, which has come, I think it's going one level below the classic bottom of the pyramid. I see with this and total skills sector, the ministries they have done, industries coming, because after all, where is the standard going to come? It's going to come from the sectors, automobile. If you see, the IT has done on its own without much of intervention, some level of standards. NASCOM, IT industry, they have given their own standard and moved forward. And they have their own standard from industry point of view. Now, I see a major gap in integrating this, because I know I am handling government. In one MHRD, in schools I really suffered for, real struggle to come with a policy. This is one area. But I think what is missing out, I have not seen anywhere, is that really in India, the skills is a state's concurrent subject. So how is it going to be implemented? Because if it is a concurrent subject, the states can actually say, I've seen it in other areas, well, the policy has come, but states has to say. Some of the states have said, even though they got the fund, and they know that this is come in a particular way, they said, I don't want to use the fund, let me do it in my own way. For example, the English in Gujarat, the state level thing. I think I'm seeing this is a real scenario where this has not been thought through. So I want to know what the NSDC and other, what is the thought, because this involves, while the direction that is in terms of planning is very good, starting with standards, instructional design standards, execution standards, measurement standards, because my worry is that we're going to bring in 4 different parties will never work together, and also states. How is it going to happen? Because somebody talked about the execution, this only creates the whole thing differently. Whenever I go and ask anybody, states, they said they have not got any very clear-cut mandate, except with some couple of departments. And they are saying that I'm doing my own way, this one. If you go to some states there, I think this is the area where I think perhaps NSDC should put at least a policy there. There are areas like if you take ICT in school or some of the areas, PPP, there is a very clear-cut policy which has worked on a mission mode. Okay, you can see, just to give an example, the government is struggling with GST now, but they are putting a high-level thing and move forward. I think that is very important, but this is going to be a major issue. While the other vision is very good, it's exciting, the money is there, and you have this, constituents are there. But I think what's going to do is, unless you bring in state and these 4 departments together, you're going to have a major issue. Of course, to add to that, I also want to know what is the role of private sector, because scale, if you want, it will come from the entrepreneurial private sector. Then the engagement norms. Will you go with the tender norms, low cost, because the private sector has to come with the know-how, then they want to have certain protection. These are the issues which will come in the types of skills.
Yes, sir. Hello. I'm Malaya from Vizag. The gentleman, I came a bit late. I could not get your name, sir. You have mentioned that NSIC? NSIC. Skill Development Corporation. I mean, 1,000 crores is set apart as a venture capital. As a fund. It is something like granting aid to given for the skill development, or how? See, there is a befitting and successful example with a PPP model from Gujarat. And PPP model have been successfully implemented in the industrial sector. So, of course, lot of time is lost. Vocational training is to be given, welders are to be promoted, fitters are to be promoted, plumbers are to be promoted, but only professional skills are being increased. Finally, they are also not exactly suiting to the requirements of the industry. So, if you, you said facilitator, I say we need to promote more of entrepreneurs. That entrepreneur will control the management. How the Gujarat example have succeeded, what is the ratio of their investment, and who is controlling the management? This is a question to Bhupender Singh, and both of you kindly clarify.
Just I wanted to tell, I am Dr. Singhal from National Institute of Rural Development. This is Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. I would like to tell just a few experience of mine in our ministry, what we are doing with rural youth and in tribal youths. In fact, the major problem is the quality of vocational training, number one. And not only the quality actually, it is the forward and backward linkage problem is there. Because when we come to the rural area and tribal area, this is the major problem in fact. So what we see in IRDP, which was our major program of self-employment generation of our ministry, which was implemented in all the villages in rural area, its achievement was only 17%. People could come above the poverty line because we have trained youth in TRISEM, and then they could develop something, but they could not get any assistance actually as far concern of coming into self-employment generation. This is number one. Then based on our experience, we have started this self-help movement in our country. And that is also somehow we were having lot of success, but lot of failure was also there. So recently in the last week only we have started, our ministry has started in a very big way, that is National Livelihood Mission, where there is lot of scope is there to get involved this private sector actually. The purpose of this thing is that let us develop this capacity of this rural people, the youth particularly, and the capacity to organize in the whatever way, whether civil society, this self-help group type of movement, and that is started based on our Andhra Pradesh model. I think most of you must be knowing that there are more than 10 lakh self-help group, this mostly being run by the women in Andhra Pradesh, and that has been spread to all over country now. Government is focusing, our ministry is focusing, and there is a detailed guidelines, everything is available of course in our website, and everyone have scope to develop. So my only limited experience is that there are very few successful experiments as far concern of say youth vocational training. Like we are working, our ministry is working now recently, NIRD in my institute. We have been setting up this one vocational training institute